Hi everyone. In the last couple of videos we were talking about how to support the immune system. Now we're going to look at related herbs that are used in the treatment of active infections. Whenever we're treating an active infection, we don't just support the immune system, although that is one of the critical pillars for any good infection or cold and flu type formula. But there's two other things that we need to do. We need to include herbs that are antimicrobial, herbs that directly attack the type of microorganism that's causing the infection. So since most of the time when we're treating active infections, we're treating colds and flu, by far the most important category here are the antiviral herbs. In addition, we need to support the organs where the symptoms are manifesting. This is the main area where the infection is taking place. So for colds and flu, for example, what we're talking about is the respiratory system. Primarily, our symptoms are manifesting in three major areas within the respiratory system: within our sinuses, within our throat, and within our lungs. So you need to include herbs which both dry out the mucus secretions, but also loosen them up so that we're not so stuffed up and congested. Also herbs which have a healing and soothing and antimicrobial effect on infections in the throat, and expectorant herbs, because during an infection, what a cough is trying to do is to expel from the lungs those viruses, as well as toxins that they produce and dead immune cells that are killed in the process of fighting them. So it produces, along with all that mucus, a kind of toxic sludge in the lungs that the body is trying to get rid of. We don't want to suppress a cough. We want to support the ability of the lungs by using expectorants to get that stuff out, because if it remains in there, even if the infection is gone, it basically produces inflammation in the lungs, which can persist long after the cold and flu is over. The other major area that we have to deal with is fever. And for fever, what we're primarily doing is we're not trying to suppress the fever, except in rare instances when a fever is too high. Primarily what we want to do is support the fever by allowing it to come to the surface of the body. We use diaphoretic herbs in that case, which bring the blood flow to the surface of the body and allow our body to cool down more easily. And in many cases, it might even cause us to sweat, so that that sweating process helps cool the body down. So in effect, what we're doing is we're supporting the immune system, we're attacking the microorganism, and we are supporting the respiratory system to deal with the effects of the infection and helping the body to deal with fever. You don't want to out and out suppress it, because fever is actually an important part of our body's immune response. The fever is actually not created by the illness, it's created by our immune system to help to fight the infection. So suppressing it, except as I said, in rare instances where a fever has gone dangerously high, by taking aspirin or something like that, it may help with our symptoms a bit, but it actually reduces our body's capacity to fight the infection. The other thing to keep in mind is that in these situations, we're dealing with an acute infection. So as I mentioned previously, two important caveats are: we want to begin treatment as quickly as possible, and we have to use acute dosing, which means taking, instead of 3-4 times a day, the way we treat a chronic illness, or the way we might use an immune tonic as a preventative. When we're treating an active infection, you're taking your formula more like 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, and at 50 to 100% higher the normal dose, because when it comes to treating an active infection, you have to really whack it hard in order to reduce the severity and the length of the illness. A very, very important consideration, and one of the reasons that one of the two reasons that people often fail when using these types of formulas is they wait too long before they start taking it, and they don't take enough of it. It's, normally you wouldn't take herbs in those kind of quantities, but because the treatment of infection, especially something like a cold, is usually relatively short, it's very safe in order to up the dose and the frequency of dose for a short period of time. In talking about the immune stimulants, one of the groups of herbs that I talked about was the aster family, which is very important. And many of them have antimicrobial and fever lowering and expectorant and other properties that are useful here as well. But when it comes to this group of herbs for dealing with fever, for dealing with viral infections and supporting the respiratory system, a very, very important group of herbs to look at are the mint family herbs. And that includes many common herbs that you find in your kitchen: rosemary, thyme, oregano, marjoram, basil. These are all very, very effective herbs for treating, and mints. If we're talking about the mint family, we should talk about the different mints themselves: wild mint, peppermint, spearmint. But all of these are excellent respiratory herbs, just as immune stimulant properties are ubiquitous in the aster family. Antiviral and respiratory properties and diaphoretic, that bringing the heat to the surface of the body, those properties are ubiquitous in the mint family. And of course, there's other common kitchen herbs like ginger and cinnamon, which are excellent antimicrobials and respiratory herbs as well. For fever, there's also a group of bitter fever herbs that have traditionally been used. Things like yarrow, the various species of vervain, and even some of the less bitter but very effective herbs like elderflower, which is also immune stimulant and antiviral, and a very good herb, especially for sinus type symptoms. So there's a wide variety of herbs that can be used. And when it comes to putting together a good formula to treat colds and flu, we're going to use several herbs to support the immune system, and then several herbs with these antiviral and respiratory properties. You put them together and you've got a complete formula. You use them quickly and keep them at hand so that you've got them available whenever you start to feel like you're getting sick. And that's basically, in a nutshell, the essence of using herbal treatment for treating colds and flus.